You want your car's engine to literally melt and catch on fire, because that's what will happen if you don't routinely change your car's oil. So today I'm going to show you how to change your car's oil, specifically on this 2010 Nissan Altima. On this car, in order to access the oil filter, we have to remove the passenger side tire. Now before we jack the car up, we need to loosen the lug nuts. We do that with a lug nut wrench, putting it on the lug nut, and using lefty-loosey to loosen it up. The car is off the ground and we have our two jack stands positioned on our car for safety. Now we need to make sure that the oil catch pan is in a position to catch the oil when it first squirts out and whenever it's just dripping directly down. So we look good. And now we need our 14mm wrench, position it on the bolt and turn lefty-loosey, which means counterclockwise. So a clock goes this direction, so it's counter of that. So lefty-loosey, and we're going to loosen it up a little bit so we can hand loosen it, make it a little quicker. Looks like we're ready. And a little trick is that whenever you're undoing it, push into the oil pan to make sure that the oil does not leak out and make a mess everywhere before you're ready to pull it off. And then, once you feel that it's off the threads, then you quickly release it like so. And as you can see, the oil comes out a little bit further away at first. We need to put the bolt in a safe place away where we're going to be able to get it later. Now we wait for the oil to drain. Now that we have let the oil drain for a while, it's still going to drip a few drops every second because we're not going to be able to get every last bit of oil out. So what we need to do is wipe down the area. Wipe down the bolt, which I already did because it's hard to do with one hand, and reinstall the bolt. Make sure it's going in square and straight, not crooked or off to the side. Hand tighten it down, nice and snug. Once you've hand tightened it down, take the 14mm wrench again, and this time we're going to go righty-tighty, which is clockwise, and we're just going to go a good half a turn to make sure that it's tight but not too tight. And now it's time to take off the oil filter. And before we remove it, we need to make sure the oil catch pan is at a good distance to where it can catch the oil and not make a mess, which it is. It has a good distance on this side and the other side for whenever it drips out. So now it's time to remove the oil filter. We do that with turning it counterclockwise. And as you can see, the oil will just drip out as we loosened up. Put the oil filter in the catch pan to help that drain too. And now we wait and let that drain. Now it's time to install the new oil filter. But before we do that, we need to take our finger, dip it in the old oil a little bit, and rim it around the new gasket of the new filter. So that way it creates a good seal with the metal and makes it easier to take off next time. And we need to take our rag, clean the area where the oil filter will be going. And now, installing the new filter, place it on the thread to make sure it's centered and tighten it down clockwise. And then once it's tight without any force, then give it a half turn just like we did with the bolt. That way it's tight, but not too tight. Now the new oil filter is installed. Now with the new filter installed and the old oil drained, we need to put the tire back on. We need to take the jacks out from under the car, and we need to let the car back down on the ground. Now that the car is back down on the ground, now it's time to put the oil in, and we remove the cap and put the funnel in the hole to make sure that the oil doesn't go everywhere. Now we add the 4.9 quarts of oil to the car. After all the oil has been added, start the car and let it run from 2 to 3 minutes, and then turn it off. Check the oil by pulling the dipstick and wiping it down to get an accurate reading. Reinsert the dipstick and take it back out, and it's hard to see, but the oil level is not above high and it's not below low, so the correct amount of oil was added and the oil has been changed. To recap, jack the car up, drain the oil into a receptacle, remove the tire, add the new oil filter, gently put the car back on the ground, add the proper amount of oil,
and check the oil level. Now remember to routinely change your car's oil so that way your engine doesn't catch on fire.